Metal was not one of these companies where people have like 2-cent stock or something. Okay, if you go back to the original way the company was put together, it was a company that anybody could have bought for about 80 cents US, and you could have bought it for like months and months. And I was out there telling people to buy it, and I bought it. So I'm on the board, which means when I buy the stock, I have to make filings. Now, I bought the stock yesterday. I probably bought just under $100,000 worth of stock since the 1st of September. And people can look at that and they can see what I do, because anything I do, I have to file. That's the law, right? So if people should look and see what's EB doing with his money, okay? Because I mean, why would EB be buying the stock in the market now? Why would he be doing that? So you have to understand something, is that I had a hand in creating Metal and building the company. So 28 transactions and still more underway. And I don't know how many royalties we have, like maybe almost 80 or something like that, right? So we have a lot of royalties. And why do I keep buying the stock? It's trading now for about half the value of all the assets in the company. When it was 13, it was trading for 2.5 times the value. Now let me just make that ultra simple. That you've heard of a PE ratio. Okay, so it's the same thing with this business. It means that as far as a PE ratio or a value to the value of the assets of the company, it's about 75% cheaper now than it was when it was $13. And the problem is we're in a culture where everyone wants something to gamble on. But this is not a time to gamble. You have to say, what do I own? Okay, so I own the stock of this company, which means I'm an owner of this company. And I sleep fine at night, as you know, I'm kind of doing fine. And it's not because I'm super wealthy or something and I don't care about money. I very much care about money. I mean, I'm spending all my time in the markets and doing all these things, and it's not a charity operation, okay? So I'm not putting 100 grand into a company where I'm on the board, where I'm heavily involved, because I don't care about making money. In fact, I think I'm going to make a lot of money. And the reason why I think that is because you want to buy these royalties when things are cheap, when they're cheap. And there's been 8 acquisitions in the royalty business. 8 acquisitions in 16 months. That means that they're running out of companies to buy. The big companies are running out of royalties to buy. Meanwhile, the stocks are hovering at all-time lows. Now, everybody says they want to buy low, sell high. Do they really? Because I'm involved and I don't see the same behavior. I think people wanted to buy at 13 and then they wanted to gamble, you know. So the reason I want to lay that out to people is you got to say, what do I own? Am I happy with what I own? Because we're in a time right now where things are shifting. This is a very different era that we're going into. Metal is a company for the average person. I bought the stock in the market. You can buy the stock in the market. It's available. In 2015, you would go to the conferences, to the mining, and you were worried that the mining executives might commit suicide after the conference because it was so bad. No one would buy the stocks. It was awful. All of a sudden, January, about the 3rd week of January 2016, the gold price and the stocks kicked into gear. The gold price maybe only went up a couple $100. It was not that much. And the gold stocks went totally bananas. I mean, they went so high, so fast, it was crazy. What people need to understand is you have to own the quality company that you want to own before that happens, because you'll never buy that stock as it's going up. You'll never buy it because you'll say, it'll come back, it'll come back, it'll come back. Why did Brett Heath and I create Metal? Because when you own royalties, you don't have any sort of meter running. You don't have the clock is ticking for the mining company. The energy prices are going up and it's making mining expensive. People are striking. The First Nations people want money. Metal has none of that. The royalty gives you time. And the question, what you have to do is you have to flip it back around on people and say, how have your results been? Okay? Usually not that great, okay? A lot of these companies have very little substance, and if you really dig into the details, they are capitalizing on a fad. And that's sad, but it works really well. You go to the message boards, you see company keeps reinventing itself, it does whatever's possible. I think we're on the cusp of a transition where you're not going to want to own the stocks that ran the last 10 years, okay? Everybody's saying, when can I buy Zoom? You know, is it time to buy Zoom again? You know, because it's going to go back up. It's not going to go back up because we're shifting into a different era. And if it's an era, like I think, where we're going to want to own real assets, this is going to be a time where the royalties are going to explode in value, if I'm right about this. If the gold price goes up $300 or something, you don't make much money on gold. That's 20% basically now. If the gold price does that, the value of the gold royalties expands at a much greater rate because you have 30 or 40 years of production and you don't care what the oil price is. Barrick is, I think, one of the best gold companies, but the problem is that I think the oil price goes to 100. That's probably a quarter of the cost. I think it's very hard to find labor, and I think that the gold miners are having a huge problem because they've spent nothing for 10 years to speak of finding new gold. People want to be crypto miners, not real miners, and so you have nobody coming out of school going into the business. You have who's going to go out and look for a gold mine the last 10 years. There's no money being spent on exploration. Now, of course, somebody found a gold mine. People write in and they say, yeah, well, I know one guy. Okay, fine, one guy. But it's been down since 2011. It's been down, 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 down. And the amount of golds found has been down. And so if you're a mining company, you have to keep producing and producing and producing. And so I had a conversation yesterday with Zoltan Posner, this very interesting guy, and I was explaining to him that in the futures market for gold, you see a year's worth of supply sold in a day. And this was news to him, which really surprised me. I mean, I was saying, you got to look at this. It's right on the Bloomberg. I mean, when the Ukraine thing happened, gold went to 2070, and there was a full year's worth of supply sold in one day, and no actual gold changed hands. Did you see this? And he said, no. What I'm trying to say is that if we get to a point where the producers of gold actually determine the price, it's a different ballgame. Because everything is now determined in New York. And in the oil market, this is coming to a head. MBS said, we're no longer going to let the New York futures market determine the oil price. Think about what he's saying. I mean, if that happens in gold, I don't even think we'll know what to do, because for so long the gold price has been determined by cash settled futures. What I tell my company is don't worry about it because what can you do? I mean, you watch in the market and the gold price is down $20 on massive futures volume, but then in the physical market you have to pay 10-15% premium for an ounce of gold and you can't even get it. I say to people, what can you do? You just buy what's on sale and sell what is too expensive, and don't worry about it, because the thing is, this sorts itself out in the long run. It really works itself out. And when it does, it's too late. Look at IM Gold just sold a big asset yesterday that I think is a really nice asset. And the stock was up almost 20% or something like that, which it's been so down for so long. And the company's had a lot of trouble and it's got really great assets. But here's a miner that's trying to get its act together. But now here's why I'm telling you this. Metalla has royalties, several little royalties around Côté, which is where they're going to spend all the money that they make from the sale. Do you see how great it is to have a royalty? The copper supply does not look good. You have issues in the biggest two copper mining countries.
Right.
Chile and Peru are the biggest ones. Then, I don't know if you saw this, but nobody wants Russian copper.
Right.
The thing I like about royalties is that there's so few copper mines in the world, and you get a royalty in these things, and you have 100 years of mine production coming ahead of you. And I think it's a better way to play it because, to your point, all the signs point to how are you going to make these cars. I don't know if people know this, but you need a lot of petroleum to make the electric car. You need a lot of copper. The lithium is like, it has the name recognition, but it's kind of a different piece of the equation. It's harder to bet on the lithium, but you need nickel for the larger cars. They have different batteries for the small ones. So, I mean, the royalties, what I like about it is that I don't have a gun to my head. If I'm running a mining company in that space, or if I'm running the automobile manufacturing company, there's a huge amount of problems. And I cannot invest in something like that because I don't want the pressure. You want to not be disturbed in your life, okay? So there's things about those businesses that become disturbing because you have all these labor issues. You have all these things that are boiling right now, and you're stepping into all that as a stock investor. And the stock investor only benefits if the profits come in. So, I mean, you have all these headaches to deal with. And I don't want to deal with these headaches because it's very stressful. What I'm trying to do for my kids is I'm trying to give them a neutral life experience where they can see things and experience things. But the last thing I want them to do is what I do for work. Because you can't ever stop, and it's constantly challenging, and you have to, all your time is spent doing this, is that then you try to engage with people, to have relationships. It's very difficult because you value your clarity and the quiet times and all these things, and you're in a world of people hooked to the phone, I'm telling you, it might be better to just be goofing off, and you don't have this whole way of this cerebral life is not, it's not for everybody.